Welcome back to the France 24 newsroom. You're watching live from Paris. I'm Haxi Myers-Belkin. The day's top stories. Capitol Hill takes stock of a leaked audio tape in which outgoing US President Donald Trump urges the Secretary of State for Georgia to find enough votes to declare him the winner of the November election in the state. Yet another shot in the arm for the United Kingdom as the country begins to roll out a second coronavirus vaccine. That as Prime Minister Boris Johnson warns harsher restrictions could be imminent. And 2 more French soldiers are killed in Mali after their vehicle hits an improvised explosive device. That just days after 3 others were killed in almost identical circumstances. It's good to have you with us. Also coming up in the programme, as South Korea announces a host of new COVID-19 restrictions, we head to an aquarium in the capital that's mastered the art of socially distanced season's greetings. Lawmakers in Washington have expressed their outrage after a leaked audio recording showed President Trump pressuring Georgia's Secretary of State to find enough votes to overturn his election defeat in the state. The conversation, first obtained by the Washington Post, shows the outgoing president issuing threats to his fellow Republican, who insists once again that the data Trump has is wrong. Maria Sophos explains.
Adding fuel to the fire in what's set to be a tense week in American politics, the release of a taped phone conversation between Donald Trump and Georgia's Secretary of State, first obtained by the Washington Post. During the hour-long call, the president pressures Brad Raffensperger to recalculate Georgia's presidential vote in his favour.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have. Because we won the state. The people of Georgia are angry. The people of the country are angry. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong.
Just before the tape was released by the Washington Post, Donald Trump commented on his conversation with Raffensperger via Twitter.
I spoke to Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger yesterday about Fulton County and voter fraud in Georgia. He was unwilling or unable to answer questions such as the ballots under table scam, ballot destruction, out-of-state voters, dead voters and more. He has no clue.
Speaking in Georgia on Sunday evening, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris condemned Trump's actions.
Have you all heard about that recorded conversation? Well, it was, yes, certainly the voice of desperation. Most certainly that. And it was a bald-faced, bold abuse of power by the President of the United States.
Thus far, the White House has made no comment about the tape, one that immediately sent shockwaves through Washington.
That leaked tape of President Trump emerges as all eyes are already on the state of Georgia, with 2 Senate runoff votes set to determine who controls the upper chamber. If the 2 seats go to the Democratic challengers, the Senate will be split 50-50 between Republicans and Democrats, with Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris casting the deciding vote. Those key votes taking place on Tuesday. Nancy Pelosi has been narrowly re-elected as US House Speaker in a tight race, giving her the reins of the Democrats' slender majority in the House of Representatives. It comes as a new Congress takes office amid ongoing political uncertainty. On Tuesday, twin votes in Georgia for seats in the Senate will finally determine who controls the upper chamber. Andrew Hillier has more.
Nancy Pelosi of the state of California.
It was a tight vote, but Nancy Pelosi kept her role by the slimmest of margins, just 7 votes. Her re-election as Speaker of the US House of Representatives means she takes the reins of a smaller majority, the Democrats having lost some seats during November's election. This on the day that the new Congress was officially sworn in, at a time of unprecedented crisis.
We begin this new Congress during a time of extraordinary difficulty. Each of our communities has been drastically affected by the pandemic and its economic crisis.
The upcoming Senate elections have added to the uncertainty. At stake, control of the upper chamber, with 2 seats up for grabs in the Georgia runoffs. If the Democrats flip both seats, that would give both parties 50 seats each in the chamber, giving Democratic Vice President-elect Kamala Harris the crucial tie-breaking vote. On Sunday evening, Harris was campaigning in Georgia, hoping to convince voters to back her party's candidates.
2020 is not really over until we get through the end of Tuesday, January 5th, and elect to the United States Senate a son of Savannah, Raphael Warnock, and a son of Georgia, John Ossoff, to the United States Senate.
Increasing the political turmoil in Washington, efforts by a handful of Republicans to challenge Joe Biden's victory. A small group of senators are pushing to delay the certification of Biden's win by Congress this Wednesday by repeating baseless claims of voter fraud. The move has driven a wedge through the Republican Party itself and looks almost certain to fail.
The number of French soldiers killed in Mali since 2013 has now risen to 50. That after 2 soldiers died when their vehicle was blown up in the northeast of the country, just days after 3 soldiers lost their lives in almost identical circumstances. Both of the latest victims were members of a regiment specialising in intelligence work.
Sergeant Yvonne Ouin was 33 years old. She is the first female French soldier killed in the Sahel. Corporal Loic Grisser was 24 years old. Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb has claimed responsibility for the attack that killed them both, an attack that has brought the number of French soldiers killed in Mali to at least 50. Both soldiers were members of a regiment near Strasbourg in northeastern France, a regiment that has been in mourning today, as all of its soldiers are affected by the loss of their comrades.
C'est évidemment un jour qu'on appréhende toujours comme soldat, puisque c'est une journée où le mot de sacrifice prend tout son sens. Je suis touché puisque j'ai décidé de les engager. Je les ai sentis tous les 2 prêts. Et aujourd'hui, évidemment, le chef de corps a une petite partie de lui-même qui est impactée. C'est bien une épreuve humaine aujourd'hui.
Here, flowers are brought by residents who came to pay their respects.
Ils sont morts pour la France, pour nous en fait.
On ne pense pas vraiment à eux et parce qu'ils sont pas là, ils sont loin et c'est quand ça arrive que ça touche quoi.
The attack occurred on Saturday in Mali's southeastern region of Menaka. The 2 soldiers were collecting intelligence when their armoured vehicle was hit by an improvised explosive device. In a press release, President Emmanuel Macron paid tribute to these soldiers who died for their country. France currently has 5,100 troops spread over 5 countries in the Sahel region, which has been a front line in the war against Islamist militancy for almost a decade.
Rebel fighters in Central African Republic attacked and partially occupied a diamond mining town on Sunday. A UN peacekeeping mission saying at least 5 rebels were killed and 2 army soldiers wounded in the clashes that ensued in Bangassou in the south of the country. That violence coming 1 day before the expected announcement of the winner of the country's presidential election. The UK is poised to become the first country in the world to start rolling out the AstraZeneca Oxford University COVID-19 vaccine. The jab is both cheaper than the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine that's already in use and also easier to store. That as UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson warns that harsher lockdown restrictions are likely to be implemented in the coming weeks, although the government's approach is still being described as confusing and contradictory by many. Peter O'Brien takes a look.
It's back to class for many primary school pupils across England on Monday. Among those fearful that this might make the situation even worse is the head teacher of Anderton Park Primary School.
I'm not comfortable at all. I think I'm more terrified now than I have been since March. I want to know why my school in Birmingham in Tier 4 is fine to open. I think Boris Johnson said this morning, schools are safe. I can't say that my school's safe.
Secondary schools are staying closed for most children, and primary schools in some badly affected areas will not be opening. The Prime Minister has insisted that those that do open are safe, while the National Education Union has called for all schools to be closed for at least 2 weeks. The country is seeing its highest infection rates yet, now recording more than 50,000 new cases a day. The government is planning tougher restrictions, though opposition and public health figures say quicker and stronger action is needed.
The virus is just going to get a tighter and tighter grip on communities right across the country. And vaccination is not going to come quick enough to help us in that. And it's going to be very, very bad. The Prime Minister talks about being rough and rocky. It's going to be disastrous if we don't get this under control.
More than 500,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine are ready for rollout in the UK on Monday, in what the Health Secretary has called a pivotal moment. More than 1 million people have already received their first jab of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine.
AstraZeneca has filed an application for approval of its coronavirus vaccine developed with Oxford University in South Korea. That as the country becomes the latest to expand its coronavirus restrictions in the face of rising new daily cases. The country has reported 1,020 new cases in the past 24 hours. Now, private gatherings will be limited to a maximum of 4 people nationwide, with fresh curbs for restaurants, bars and also places of worship. Time now for a look at some other world news stories we're covering today. Israeli prosecutors set out an amended charge sheet against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the latest step of a corruption case in which he's accused, among other things, of helping out a powerful media mogul in exchange for positive coverage. The document lists 315 alleged incidents of corruption. The Islamic State group claims responsibility for an attack that killed 11 Pakistani miners in Baluchistan province on Sunday. All the victims, whose throats were slit, were from the country's minority Shiite Hazaras. The community has been demonstrating against the bloodshed in the region's capital, Quetta. And rescue workers in Norway uncover a 7th body following Wednesday's deadly landslide that buried homes in a village close to the capital. A 2-year-old girl and her father are among the confirmed victims. Local police saying they still hope survivors can be found with the help of sniffer dogs, helicopters and drones. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is set to learn whether a British judge has given the green light to his extradition to the United States to face charges of espionage, a charge for which, if found guilty, he could face up to 40 years in prison. Whichever way the ruling goes, an appeal is likely, meaning the final outcome won't be known for a while yet. Let's take a listen.
I'm very moderately confident that this will be a positive outcome. We've seen such bias in the proceedings. There have been so many violations against Julian in the proceedings that unfortunately I am almost certain that the decision tomorrow will be that he should be extradited, which is of course of grave concern.
Now, swimming in a tank full of sharks and stingrays might not be everyone's idea of ringing in the new year, but that's exactly what's happening at an aquarium in the South Korean capital. Scuba divers dressed in hanbok, that is traditional Korean clothing, have been offering their New Year's greetings to visitors from the depths of their pool. A welcome spectacle as South Koreans grapple with ramped-up COVID-19 restrictions.
Due to gathering restrictions, I wasn't able to properly celebrate the end of the year and had to stay home. So coming out here today is truly a breath of fresh air. I was really depressed at home, so it's great being out here with my family.
A reminder now of the day's headlines. Capitol Hill takes stock of a leaked audio tape in which outgoing US President Donald Trump urges the Secretary of State for Georgia to, quote, find enough votes to declare him the winner of the November election. Yet another shot in the arm for the UK as the country begins to roll out a second coronavirus vaccine. That as Prime Minister Boris Johnson warns harsher restrictions could be imminent. And 2 more French soldiers are killed in Mali after their vehicle hits an improvised explosive device. That just days after 3 others were killed in almost identical circumstances.